I don't watch the show that much, but I've seen enough.
Who is that?
Greg Gutfeld's one of the hosts of The Five, who, if I don't have anything nice to say, I generally don't say anything at all. I would just say this: his show should be called Kat Timpf, not Gutfeld, because she's the funny one on it.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions? Yeah. Like you said, it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say on The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all...
Well, I had a different question, but it struck me that in the first segment you used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected. Yeah. So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term, because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But their brains are small. But who's the dumbest one of all? True, none of them are in Mensa, but who's the most densa? Perhaps it's Sunny who mastered the art of making idiots look smart. Now, The View could ask a mirror who's the dumbest one of all, but there's no way that glass doesn't shatter.
How do you define wokeness? Because I hear people use the term all the time, and it means something different to everybody.
Well, again, I think it's this collection of ideas that are not building on liberalism, but very...
What happens when Greg Gutfeld and Bill Maher both hit their limit with The View? You don't get a civil debate, you get a verbal wrecking ball slamming straight into daytime drama. This wasn't just a shady glance or passive jab. It was full-throttle sarcasm with the precision of a sniper. And it hit hard. 1 minute, the hosts were riding high on their usual takes. The next, they were dodging rhetorical fire. Because when Gutfeld and Maher decide to speak up, they don't pull punches. They throw haymakers. And this time, The View was the one seeing stars.
This morning's hell claim that my name doesn't ring a bell. It's time for...
Our view on The View. Ugh.
Obsessed with a lot of things that make me laugh every single day of my life, and you, little lady, are right up there with them. I'd love to have you on our show sometime. We'll even stock the green room with your favorite frozen mice. That's what you feed them.
One called out the double standards. The other lit up the stage with dry humor and truth bombs so cold they left frostbite. If you thought daytime TV was still a cozy space for friendly debates, think again. This wasn't Hot Topics. This was a full-blown hazmat situation. Somebody better call a cleanup crew for that studio carpet, because there were no commercial breaks, no filters, and definitely no mercy. 2 uninvited guests, crashing the O's, set from miles away, and dragging The View like it owed them back rent. So how did Bill Maher and Greg Gutfeld team up, even unintentionally, to expose the chaos behind the coffee mugs and cue cards? Let's break it all down.
Super far right, and I can't say it enough. I think they're the bigger threat. But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay. That was a joke. But,
too dark, too dark.
He was black, he could run for president and probably win. But there she goes again, playing the race card. She's more predictable than gas after a cheesy Gordita Supreme at Taco Bell. For someone named Sunny, she sure is cloudy. Sausage maker Johnsonville is recalling more than 42,000 pounds of pork sausage for possible contamination with plastic fibers. Fortunately, authorities were able to track all 42,000 pounds to a single location in New York City.
Destroyed. How do we do that? It's a war. I don't know how to do that, and you don't know how to do that. I assume the Resley... Of course, everybody is, but that's what happens in a...
If The View is your favorite show, you might be a little slow. Yes, it's time for...
Our view on The View.
Very serious music. They love to play.
Now let's talk context. Because Gutfeld and Maher teaming up? That's not exactly your dream duo. Greg is the sarcasm-drenched conservative who uses eye rolls like punctuation. Bill's the unapologetic liberal who'll tell you cancel culture is scarier than climate change. But when these two find common ground, especially to roast The View, you know something on that couch has gone terribly wrong.
That you keep wearing that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Let's not do that.
Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap because I think you can hate Donald. Joy is a wonderful human being, and she should not be afraid that people are going to attack her because she said that thing about the swastika on the cap. She does not think that as you said to me in the break, you do not think that all the people who are for Trump are Nazis.
No, I don't.
You don't.
I just want them to pay attention to words like vermin and poisoning.
And the roast? Oh, it was perfectly timed. While New York was out here pulling sausages off shelves for plastic contamination, yes, that actually happened. Gutfeld and Maher were dishing out a way spicier plate, stacked with truth, seasoned with sarcasm, and hot enough to feed the entire internet.
Hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Let's not do that.
Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
And then there's The View. At this point, calling it a talk show is generous. It's more like stepping into a verbal mosh pit with coffee mugs. Facts? They vanish before the theme song ends. Nuance? Left the building around season 17. Logic? Might be trapped under Whoopi's chair. Toss a Nobel Peace Prize winner on that set. Wait 5 minutes, and they'll start questioning whether their mug's filled with coffee or chaos. Because The View isn't about unpacking ideas anymore. It's about performing outrage, shouting over each other, and vibe-checking you with just enough fake concern to keep advertisers calm. Enter Greg and Bill, and suddenly it's not about left or right anymore. It's about common sense versus chaotic spectacle. Greg, who's basically made roasting The View a weekly tradition, went in like clockwork. At this point, the man hears a wild take from the panel and doesn't even blink. He just rolls his eyes so hard, NASA has to recalibrate their satellites.
He has opened Pandora's box for some crazies out there.
The only crazies I see around here are those View chicks. Am I right? Would say. But I digress, says the. They talk less sense than me after stealing those pills from Kat's purse. Or peel.
Greg's favorite jab, that The View loves to market itself as a round table of diverse thinkers. But in reality, it's 5 people yelling in perfect harmony, each one convinced they're the lone genius in a room full of chaos. He once joked that watching The View feels like being stuck in a group project where no one read the assignment. But somehow, everyone still thinks they're the valedictorian. And Greg? Oh, he didn't just roast the show's format. He zeroed in on the cast like he had a personal vendetta against every mug on that table.
The show that makes mornings hell claim that my name doesn't ring a bell. It's time for...
Our view on The View. Ugh.
Yeah, the witch's coven finally shows me some lovin'. Yesterday on The View, yours truly was the subject of conversation. Apparently, the broads have no idea who I am, or so they say. Hit it, Gladys.
They said that Gutfeld talks about you all the time.
Who is he? Well, really, who is he?
I don't watch the show.
He has a show.
I don't watch the
never
show.
heard of him.
Yeah.
I guess he's just obsessed with me.
No. Next, Joy's going to say she's never heard of carbs. Seriously, her denial of knowing me is as believable as her red hair. But obsession? I mean, come on, Joy. Where would you even get that idea? Like Joy Behar's face, it's looking worse and worse by the day. More full of crap than Joy Behar after a night of scotch and Taco Bell. Her being named Joy is like me being named ugly. Joy wasn't there on the show. Apparently Mondays are her days off when she feeds in the pasture. It now smells like a humid day inside Joy Behar's moo-moo. The motives stink worse than Joy Behar's job. I mean, assuming she jogs. Oh, wait, there she is. She has a point. Maybe I am obsessed, but some people are obsessed with Bigfoot, and they don't get to see him on TV every afternoon. And if they did, could they tell the two apart? I don't know. But yeah, it's true. I am obsessed with her the way a mongoose is obsessed with snakes. But I'm obsessed with a lot of things.
Greg came in swinging, calling out Joy Behar's uncanny ability to rewrite history while she's still mid-sentence. Then he went for Sunny Hostin, dragging her, "I said it, so it must be true." Energy like it was the Wi-Fi signal from Delusion, HQ, and Whoopi. Greg clocked her ever-shifting role, from lead moderator to confused daytime philosopher, like she's trying to turn hot topics into a TED Talk nobody asked for. But the real mic drop. Greg torched Joy's take on race, pointing out that, according to her, she understands racism because she once dressed up as a black woman for Halloween. Yeah, that actually happened.
Is this Joy speaking? The same Joy? The same Joy that paraded around in blackface not too long ago? Come on, Joy, I don't think you should be asking these questions. I am an African American.
Excuse me. Come on, Kim. Excuse me, I have to say something to you. He told Bob Woodward that it was a very serious issue, and it's airborne, and that it was terrible. And then he went out and told the American people, don't wear masks, it's all going to go away. You have to put some blame on your president. I'm sorry. You're putting it on something extraneous here. Talk to the point, please.
Is this Joy speaking? The same Joy? The same Joy that paraded around in blackface not too long ago? Come on, Joy, I don't think you should be asking these questions. I am an African American.
Excuse me. The black community had my back. They know that that was not blackface. That was an homage. Oh, please, just answer the question.
The black community has your back? The black community has your back?
They do. Sonny,
the black community did not vote for you.
Well,
the black community did not vote for you. What planet
it was during
are you
a special election.
On?
Sonny, can I speak?
What planet are you living on?
It was during a special election while we were still under lockdown, and I could not talk to people. Can I speak, or are you just going to scream over me?
But here's the kicker. Joy wasn't even on the show that day. Greg, never missing a chance to throw shade, joked that Mondays must be her pasture days, like a weekly retreat to recharge her snark levels. Same energy, he said, as that one flaky friend who always has a conveniently timed aunt funeral whenever you make plans. Maybe she just needed the day off to sort through her hate mail. And that's just from the other panelists. In Greg's eyes, The View isn't a talk show anymore. It's a group therapy session where the therapists keep walking out mid-conversation, and the guests, they're just there to be emotionally tackled, like they wandered into a live taping of WWE, Daytime Edition. But underneath all that roast, Greg actually lands a pretty serious point. He says the show has stopped being about dialogue. It's not. Let's hear different views. It's admit you're wrong or get roasted. No room for real disagreement. Just heavy sighs, whispered snark, and judgmental side eyes. And if you're lucky, maybe you'll get a full sentence out. Right before someone cuts you off with a smug grin and a poorly researched stat.
Even all the excuses in the world does not change the fact that 3 people got shot. 2 people were murdered. To me, it's...
All right. And to me, that's about as educated a legal opinion as the Rittenhouse prosecutor explaining that you should take a beating instead of defending yourself, or that the closer someone is to you with a the less likely they'll use.
And their version of inclusivity. Greg compares it to a warm welcome from an Arctic windstorm. Basically, if you're not towing their line, you're not just ignored, you're set up for humiliation. Greg didn't pull any punches. He called it exactly what it is. Performance activism, a Broadway show with dimmer lights, way louder eyebrows, and zero real dialogue. And no, not even the production crew gets a pass. Greg goes as far as saying the real host of The View isn't Whoopi or Joy. It's the poor teleprompter guy backstage, praying for a commercial break to save him before another wild misinformation spiral explodes on live TV. But here's where Greg truly goes to another level. He claims The View doesn't even operate in reality anymore. It's like watching a Twitter thread come to life. Chaotic, confusing, and loud for no reason. Facts filtered through feelings. Logic measured by how loud someone yells. Greg argues that The View is less a talk show and more a theatrical performance, with one mission: to drown out real discussion with louder, flashier chaos.
Well, someone can legally come to a protest and under the cover of law, me.
If he were black, he could run for president and probably win. But there she goes again, playing the race card. She's more predictable than gas after a cheesy gordita supreme at Taco Bell. For someone named Sunny, she sure is cloudy.
And honestly, he might not be that far off. Did I watch an entire episode of The View? Greg said, no woman could survive that, unless she's got nothing going on up there. I mean, I have a job. He even pointed out how wild it is for people who call themselves progressives to act like nothing has improved. His take? If things aren't getting better, maybe you're the ones holding it back. I wish I could have seen Joy Behar watching that segment. He said she probably sat there thinking, yep, skipping this episode was the best decision I ever made. He even hinted her absence might not have been a coincidence, especially since she's made herself the go-to voice on systemic racism, despite being one of the whitest women on TV. And yes, Greg brought up that infamous moment where Joy once dressed up as Diana Ross for Halloween and claimed people treated her differently because of it. As if that costume granted her a VIP pass to cultural understanding, just when you thought the roast had reached its peak, boom, in walks Bill Maher. Picture this, a man who built an entire career on being a professional contrarian. He doesn't throw punches. He hosts cocktail parties and throws truth bombs with perfect precision. If Greg Gutfeld is the sniper who fires from a safe distance, Maher's the one who strolls right into the building, smiles at the camera, and presses the detonator himself. He's that kind of liberal, the one who makes even other liberals shift in their seats. Pro-weed, pro-free speech, and aggressively anti-bees. And if he's the one dragging The View, then yeah, it's officially a problem. His biggest gripe? The show has zero tolerance for nuance. According to Maher, The View doesn't see disagreement as part of the conversation. It sees it as a threat. Say something even slightly out of sync with their echo chamber, and suddenly, you're the villain. Problematic, misogynistic, or as Maher deadpans, unenlightened.
The super far right, and I can't say it enough, I think they're the bigger threat. But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews.
Yeah.
Okay? That was a joke. But,
Too dark, too dark.
To him, it's not a panel, it's a tribunal. Mess up the vibe, and they won't challenge your point. They'll hand you a moral diagnosis, recommend a forced apology, and toss your name into the cancelled list. Maher ripped into how they turn every minor topic into an emotional meltdown and wear their moral superiority like it's part of the wardrobe budget. During one segment, someone brought up the term woke, saying it was part of why Trump could win again. Maher pushed back. "I didn't say it's ruining everything," he clarified. "I said that's why Trump could get re-elected." One of the hosts replied, "That surprised me. The word woke originally came from the black community. It meant staying alert to injustice. Why is that a bad thing now?" Maher kept it simple. "It's not a bad thing, or at least it wasn't." Then he said, "Watching The View feels like being caught in a fire drill where everyone's pointing at you as the arsonist."
Well, I had a different question, but it struck me that in the first segment you used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're
no, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Yeah.
So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bastardized. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term, because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the black community to note that we must be aware of social injustices.
But words
and
migrate.
So why is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice. Who's not for that? But words do migrate. Now, I'll use any term you want.
Okay.
Because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't know, want to call it the super far left, but don't tell me the left
Or maybe the super far right.
Well, he's talking about the left.
Well, then
okay, but we talked about that.
How do you define wokeness? Because I hear people use the term all the time, and it means something different to everybody.
Well, again, I think it's this collection of ideas that are not building on liberalism, but very often undoing it. I mean, 5 years ago, Abraham Lincoln was not a controversial figure among liberals. We liked him. Now they take his name off schools and tear down his statues. Really? Lincoln isn't good enough for you? 5-10 years ago, bedrock liberalism was we are striving to be a colorblind society where we don't see race. Of course, we see it, but it doesn't matter. That's not what woke is. Woke is something very different. It's identity politics. We see it all the time. It's always the most important thing. I don't think that's liberalism. I mean, I could mention so many issues like that.
He doesn't skim the surface. He digs in deep. He mocked how the hosts toss out headlines from articles they clearly didn't finish, how they speak in hashtags like their TikTok comment sections, and how yelling louder is treated like solid proof. If Gutfeld's main issue is that The View fakes ideological balance, Maher takes it a step further. They're not just faking open dialogue. They're faking curiosity. They don't even pretend to be interested in hearing something new anymore. Maher's takedowns don't sound angry. They sound exhausted, like a tired professor watching. Straight-A students turn into group projects written in crayons. He doesn't scream. He sighs. He shrugs. And that's worse, because it sounds like disappointment.
People have to wonder, where does Sunny Hostin get her opinions?
Yeah.
Like you said, and it's obviously from her husband. She has to tell her what to say in The View, because without it, she's got nothing up there. She's not very bright. But the problem with her is that she went full racist. She injected skin color into a fairly generic behavior seen in all spouses, regardless of skin color. People marry, they listen to each other, they have something in common with them, they share their political views. She just didn't want to upset her husband by saying her husband makes her do everything, and then she'd have to accuse him of being a racist. Because if he told her that this is what white women do, then he's a racist. You see?
I don't watch the show that much, but I've seen it.
Who is that? Who is that?
Greg Gutfeld's one of the hosts of The Five, who, if I don't have anything nice to say, I generally don't say anything at all. I would just say this. His show should be called Kat Timpf, not Gutfeld, because she's the funny one on it.
The wildest part? These two guys, who wouldn't even agree on the color blue if you gave them matching paint swatches, actually landed on the same exact conclusion. The View has become the loudest echo chamber on TV. At the end of all this chaos, Greg and Bill found themselves standing on the same scorched battlefield with the same exact conclusion. The View isn't a talk show anymore. It's sketch comedy. just without the laughs. They said the panel has turned into performers, not thinkers. The punchlines act like they've seen the future, but the jokes are flat, forced, and somehow still followed by applause. To both of them. It's not even a discussion anymore. It's political theater, where every single issue is treated like it's the end of the world, and the solution is always some kumbaya group hug with a few passive-aggressive digs thrown in for flavor. Bill joked about the online reactions he got. Everyone's been texting me after Whoopi came for me last week. People were like, "Bill, enjoying the karma. Look, there's no such thing as karma. Grow up." And yes, she goes after me all the time. Says wild stuff, constantly. This one just happened to blow up. But what really brought them together was their shared frustration with how The View treats independent thinking. In that studio, having your own opinion is riskier than showing up without concealer. Gutfeld calls it ideological theater. Maher dubs it a culty brunch with a camera crew. Honestly, both labels fit. And the women of The View? They weren't thrilled the second those roast clips started making the rounds online. You could almost hear the mugs clinking a little louder. They tried to clap back, a few vague lines here, a deflective joke there. But it felt like someone trying to stop a wildfire with body glitter, all shimmer, no substance. But while they missed the point, the internet didn't. People from both sides of the aisle saw something they never expected. Agreement. Not just polite nodding, actual. Laughter. Because the takedowns were spot on. The View, in all its high horse glory, has slowly become the thing it swore to fight. Predictable, preachy, and painfully out of touch.
And by the way, out there, that hat that you keep wearing, that red hat that says "Make America Great Again," that tells people that you go along with this. So you might as well just put a swastika on the hat.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Because we see it anyway.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree with me?
Joy is a wonderful human being, and she should not be afraid that people are going to attack her because she said that thing about the swastika on the cap. She does not think that as you said to me in the break, you do not think that all the people who are for Trump are Nazis.
No, I don't.
You don't.
I just want them to pay attention to words like vermin and poisoning the blood and the Third Reich. That's all. That's really what
The fallout? Oh, it was just as cringe as you'd imagine. Maher threw out one of his classic zingers. I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the Jews. And then another voice chimed in. But let's pause for a second. This is Bill Maher we're talking about. The guy who's been waving the liberal flag for decades. That's his brand, right? Until woke culture made even that impossible to maintain. But now, here we are. Watch how they treat him. Look at Sonny Hostin's face. Listen to the tone. Just because he's a lefty who hasn't completely lost his mind doesn't mean he gets a free pass. They treat him like a problem. And just like that, the room goes silent. No real rebuttal. No meaningful pushback. Just awkward smiles. Quick transitions and a classic moving on. As if they hadn't just been served a 5-course roast. Medium rare, with a side of spicy truth. It was like someone held up a mirror to them, and every single one of them decided to look away. But here's the kicker. The very same show that prides itself on uncomfortable conversations couldn't handle one the moment it wasn't scripted. Greg and Bill didn't show up with rage. They showed up with facts. They didn't come to attack. They came to observe. They wielded sarcasm, logic, and wit, while The View hid under the table, hoping no one noticed. Spoiler alert, people noticed. Because when a Fox News regular and a liberal comedian joined forces to roast your credibility, that's not drama. That's not bullying. That's an intervention. A very public, very funny, brutally honest intervention. Now, let's zoom out. This wasn't just about two guys clowning on a daytime talk show. No, this was about something much bigger. What happens when a platform forgets how to listen? When curiosity is thrown out the window in favor of the cheap clicks? When disagreement, something that democracy relies on, suddenly becomes a threat? Greg and Bill, they'll probably never sit down for dinner together. They'll keep mocking each other's politics until the end of time. But for one brief, glorious moment, they were completely in sync. Their shared takeaway: The View has completely lost the plot. And that tired, recycled script they're reading from, yeah, it belongs in the trash, right next to those cue cards they didn't even need anyway. Let's be honest, everyone on that panel thinks the same thing. They just take turns saying it louder.
Many, I think when, was Barbara...
Walters.
Was she still on it back then?
Yeah, she was on it even after she died.
Oh my God. I remember I was on The View, and I don't know what playing at the time in a movie he was promoting. And I remember I took off her shoe just as a joke, you know, to kind of do something. And her foot, I just like, ooh, that was a mistake.
Oh my God. Meanwhile, somewhere in Canada, people were more concerned about rumored tariffs on manatee meat and, wait for it, Boyne semen. Yes, that's real, and yes, The View found a way to get upset about it. But here's the thing. If The View ever wants to be taken seriously again, they might need to start bringing in some actual dissent. Not for shock value, not for ratings, but for real, messy, uncomfortable substance. Because when your sharpest critics are funnier, more focused, and more consistent than your paid hosts, it might be time to stop shouting and start thinking. But don't get too hopeful, because the only thing louder than The View's dramatic applause breaks is the deafening silence that fills the studio whenever someone dares to challenge them. And if you think Maher and Gutfeld are done, you're dreaming. They may not be best friends, but they've clearly found a shared nemesis. Let's just say The View won't be mailing them any Christmas cookies anytime soon. Because when the clowns start roasting the circus, it's not just a roast. It's a red flag. Here's the full circle moment. When the clowns start sounding more rational than the ringmasters, the whole tent's about to come down. And no, we're not talking about keyboard warriors or random Twitter trolls. We're talking about Greg Gutfeld, the guy who cashes sarcasm checks at Fox News, and Bill Maher, the liberal icon who once threw verbal fireballs at Republicans before his morning coffee. Even they took one look at The View and said, "Yeah, this is too much. Let that marinate for a second." Bill Maher even gave Sunny Hostin a special shout-out, because apparently she just discovered grocery delivery 3 years ago. That's when she found out about Instacart. He said it, and of course, she had to let everyone know she tips well, because even she realized how out of touch that sounded. "You can order anything on there," she added. "Toiletries, fire logs. When you have to justify your tipping habits on national television just to sound relatable, you know something's off. So here we are, a conservative comedian who thinks the country's gone, woke wild, and a progressive icon who was cancelled before cancel culture even knew what it was. And they both landed on the exact same conclusion. That chaotic panel show with the mugs, the shouting, and the applause signs. Yeah, that's not a talk show anymore. That's a full-blown intervention.
Saying that they stem from climate change or something.
Yeah.
And I know she was just dying when she said something. She wanted to say racism. Dying to say that.
Yeah, it was either going to be racism or Trump, but then she realized, what if Trump wasn't born then?
Yeah.
Also, what a way to cover your bases.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something.
Yeah. Jamie, you do that a lot with
Right here. This is the moment you realize. The View didn't just drift off course. No. It sped straight into its own echo chamber and locked the doors behind it. It's gotten so deep in its own bubble that even the people who used to agree with them are now lobbing rocks at the glass walls. And here's the wildest part. These aren't trolls or haters. These were once insiders. Bill Maher. He used to roll with their crowd. He was their go-to snarky realist, the guy who could poke fun at both sides and still sit at the table. Greg Gutfeld? Okay, sure. He's always been the opposition, but even he had boundaries. But when the guy who usually laughs at you suddenly pauses and starts roasting you like a disappointed dad, you're not being trolled. You're being warned, and you can feel it. The View didn't just lose its edge, it pushed away anyone who had the guts to think independently. It's either agree with the group or get side-eyed into silence, and the ones doing the calling out. They're not saints. They're not even neutral. They live in political chaos every day. But somehow, in this moment, they sounded more grounded, more clear-headed, more normal. And when the usual chaos crew starts making more sense than the self-proclaimed voices of reason, that's when you know something's really gone wrong. So here we are. Two political opposites, one chaotic talk show, and a masterclass in irony. When it takes a comedian from Fox and a liberal legend to call out the noise, you know it's no longer just The View. It's a mirror. And what it's reflecting? Yeah, it's not pretty. Because when the clowns are the ones making the most sense, maybe it's time to cancel the circus. If that roast hit harder than a Joy Behar eye roll, then you know what to do. Hit that like, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more no-fluff breakdowns, savage side-eyes, and truth. Bombs wrapped in sarcasm. Turn on that bell, because the next takedown, you won't want to miss.